In this video, we're going to go step by step to show you how to set up a complete 12-month household budget using Budget Runner. To get the Budget Runner Google Sheets template, you'll receive an access link. When you click on this link, it's going to prompt you to save your own editable copy of the template to your own Google account. Now, as we open the spreadsheet, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to rename it. As you can see up here, it says Copy of Budget Runner Premium Template 2026. But for this video, we're just going to call it Smith Household Budget Template. And then we're going to go to File. We're actually going to make one more copy, except this time we're going to call it Smith Household Budget 2026. And we're going to make a copy. This way, the first one that we made is going to stay as a blank template that you can use to generate a new blank copy for each year. And as you can see, when you open the template for the first time on your computer, you'll land here in the Blue Table tab. And if we expand the green banner, you'll see that we've got a couple sections here that go over the instructions. There's step-by-step instructions in the Fill in the Blue Table and Run Your Budget section, as well as the Import Your Savings to the Savings tab. And if we expand those, you'll see the steps for completing each one of those tasks. And both of these things we'll actually go over here in the video. And then right below that in the blue banner is the heart of your budget, the Blue Table itself. And this is where you are going to enter all of your known expenses for the year, and Budget Runner will then use everything you put here to automatically generate your 12-month timeline over in the main checking tab. Now, to start, we'll need to fill in these two yellow cells right here. Now, the first one, you do have to tell it the first day of your current month. If you try to tell it any other kind of a day, it will error out and not let you do that. For this video, we're going to go ahead and leave it at the 1st of January, 2026, so that we can build out a full calendar year. And we're going to say that the balance that day was $1,800. Now, it is important to note that you are going to want to choose the first day of your current month as opposed to the upcoming one. So if it's August for you right now, go ahead and choose August 1st rather than September 1st. And that way we can start with the transactions that you've already got going for August so far, and then we'll work up to the present. The Blue Table comes preloaded with a household budget with some typical expenses. So go ahead and take some time here and edit these to fit your situation. Use the blank rows below if you need them to add more. But keep in mind, the Blue Table has a total of 50 rows. And not only can we not delete any rows from the Blue Table, but we also can't add any rows if you do have more than 50 expenses. You can delete the contents in the row, but you cannot delete the rows themselves. Doing so would actually break the formula structure that is required in the background to build out your 12-month budget in the main checking tab. But don't worry, if you do have more than 50 expenses, there's a workaround. Let's fill in what we can here, and then once we've generated the full 12-month budget, we can use the Add a Bill feature over here in this tab to add more. And of course, we're going to go over that in a later section of the video as well. Okay, so let's do a quick review of what all these columns are, and then we'll get started. First, we've got the start date. Now, this column is going to be for the expenses that do have a frequent repetition throughout your month, but they don't have any particular due date. Things like groceries, gas, paychecks, vehicle maintenance, things like that. And for these expenses, we're only going to be putting in the start date. We don't have to put in a due date. We're going to leave it alone. Now, in the due date column, the monthly bills that you have that do have a specific due date, just put the date number. So if it's due on the 3rd, just put 3, and then we're going to leave the start date blank on those. Next, we've got the transaction description column. This one's pretty self-explanatory. You just type in what the transaction is for. Now you'll notice that mortgage and paycheck are colored in orange and green, and that is actually because of the trigger words mortgage and paycheck. In place of mortgage, you can also use the word rent, and it will also turn it orange. But you'll notice if I take that word out, it just changes it to like all the other ones. You can put any other word in this description box that you want, but if the words rent or mortgage and paycheck are included, it'll trigger the color formatting. And once we get the year built out, you're going to see how useful this is as you scroll down throughout your year. Debit and credit columns, these are also pretty self-explanatory. In the debit column, you just put the cost of your expense, and then in the credit column, you're going to put the amount of your income or any deposits that you make. Next, we've got the interval, and this is going to be important because what you're going to do here is you're going to click the drop-down menu for each expense, and you're going to put into it what the frequency is. So for your monthly bills, you'll put 1 month, but we also have intervals ranging from 1 week to 8 weeks, and 1 month to 12 months. So that should cover most things. Next, we have the auto pay status column. And for this, we just double click, and for any of the bills that we have set up for auto pay, we include that. And that's just a visual reminder so that we can see which ones we have that are already set to pay themselves. If you want to clear that, all you have to do is click it to highlight it and press delete. Next, we've got the type column, and for this one, if we double click, we'll see a little list here, and this is to choose what type of transaction this was. So we've got options such as debit, ACH, paper check, direct deposit, in-person deposit, ATM, transfer, and this is going to be like if you have multiple accounts in the same bank and transferring funds between them, Zelle, and then for everything else we have other. Now this one is the categories column, and this is quite a bit longer list, and you're going to actually categorize all of your transactions as you make them. So for example, with the mortgage payment, it's already set to HOU, which is housing. So your mortgage and your rent is going to fit under housing, but we've also got things like allowance, app, so if you buy an app or something within an app, car, this is going to be for all your maintenance stuff and all your legal stuff. Gas is going to be separated down here because it happens a lot more frequently. Then we have childcare, credit card payment, dining out, fast food, which I actually make a distinction apart from dining out. When I drove for a living, fast food was a bit of a challenge for me because it was so easy. It was right there off the highway. So it was nice to see how that separated out so I could kind of get that under control. Then we have gas, gift, and that's whether you buy a gift for someone or if you like to create like a gift reserve, sort of like a side savings meant specifically for gift buying and for Christmas and things like that. Then we have groceries. Of course, we've got housing, as I mentioned, income, insurance, loan, leisure. Let me scroll down a bit here. Mileage for you drivers out there, pet supplies and vet visits, projects, savings, supplies, service, taxes, whether we're talking incoming or outgoing, utilities, and then other. So as I said, now we're just going to take a few minutes and we're going to work through the blue table from left to right, and we're going to update each of these items so that they fit your specific situation. Once you've got this table filled out as accurately as you can get it, it's time to actually run your budget. So we're going to head over here to the main checking tab. And at the top, we're going to click this green button that says Run It. Now, as a heads up, the first time you click the Run It button, Google is going to pop up a message saying that it needs permission to run a script, and that's totally normal. This happens anytime you use a downloaded spreadsheet that includes a script. Google just wants you to know that the sheet and the scripts were all created by a third party and isn't something that they have personally verified. Let's go ahead and click OK. Next, you're going to choose your account. Then on this screen, we're going to click on this little guy that says Advanced. At the bottom, you're going to see where it says Go to Budget Runner Scripts, Unsafe, and don't worry, it's totally fine. We're going to click that. Then we're going to scroll down to the bottom and click Continue. Then you'll be taken right back to Budget Runner, and it is going to start building your budget. It starts with all the monthly bills, and we're just going to wait. This part can sometimes take up to about a minute depending on how many expenses you have. But then at some point we will see where it adds all the other stuff and the paychecks, and then it begins to group the months and condense them down to a single row. Then after the very last month, it'll add the projected year-end balance, and then you're done. So let's scroll back to the top here. I'm going to actually minimize the magnification just a little bit. And there it is. You are now looking at the core of your 12-month budget projection. And now that it's built, the main checking tab here is actually where the bulk of your time is going to be spent as you maintain it over time. Each month is condensed down to a single group with an expansion button on the left, and you can open up each month as needed. For example, here is May. We can scroll down, we can see how the paychecks are spaced out. Everything's in chronological order. Now, something that you might watch out for, say for example with these paychecks, me personally, I get direct deposit. So when I wake up on payday, the paycheck's already in the bank. So there should be no other transactions in my mind above the paycheck. If you click on the row number for the paycheck where it gives you the hand, then click and drag it up at one space, you can put it at the top of that date. So in this case, the 15th. Then all of the other transactions you've got planned for that day show up behind your paycheck. If we go to the left here in the space, right click, you'll see where we can collapse all row groups so we can see the whole year, or we can expand all row groups so that we can scroll through the entire year. One feature I do want to point out in the main checking tab is the dynamic color formatting in the balance column. And this is built around the idea of a buffer, a minimum balance that you don't want to go below. Now by default, the buffer is set to $300, but you can change it if you want to by adjusting it in the conditional formatting for columns I and J. Now, I'm going to scroll down here so we have some room and I can demonstrate, but let's say that we start off with about $800, and as you can see, it turns green. But we're going to start chipping away at it, $25 at a time. Now, since our buffer is $300, we want some sort of visual warning as we get closer, right? Well, as it dips below $600, which is of course double the buffer, you'll notice that this cell right here next to it starts getting pink. And as we continue down below 600, it starts to get darker and darker. Now, once we drop below the $300 buffer, the balance cell itself also starts to turn pink and continues to get darker as it falls. And if we ever dip into the negative, the cell turns black, the text turns white, and it gets crossed out. It's very hard to miss. Now, once your full 12-month budget is built, this buffer guard, as I like to call it, becomes really powerful. You can scroll through the months ahead and spot any potential bottlenecks early on and fix them just by rearranging a few nearby expenses. Okay, so let's clear this up. And now let's take a look at how to track what's upcoming, what's pending, and what's cleared at the bank. So past, present, and future. And that's what these boxes over here are all about. So let me go ahead and open up January, and you can see all the transactions have these three boxes. And at the top, you can see that they're labeled U, P, and C. U is going to be for upcoming expenses, and these are things that you know are coming. Maybe you just made a purchase or an auto pay bill is scheduled for today, but it hasn't shown up in your bank yet. You just know that they're coming. You're going to check this box and it turns the row a light gray. P is for pending transactions. That's the second box here. These are going to be for the ones that you do see in your banking app, but they haven't fully cleared yet. They're still pending. And when you click this, it turns it a mid shade of gray. And then of course C is going to be for cleared transactions, and once something has fully posted at the bank, you check this box. Turns it a very dark charcoal gray with light text, and it's what all transactions are eventually going to end up looking like. Now, as you go through and you start clearing all of these transactions, you'll notice something about the pending ones and the ones that are upcoming. You'll see that the lowest row that has at least the first two of them clicked, so the U box and the P boxes, is going to show the balance highlighted in blue with white text. And it will continue to fall from one transaction to the next, following all of the pending transactions. And then it will highlight that in blue with white text. When everything is up to date, the number in that blue box should match your bank's available balance exactly, down to the penny. If that number doesn't match, it's real easy just to go up the debit and credit columns and make sure that all of your transactions are entered correctly, also to the penny. So now let's take a look at adding unexpected expenses. So we'll say that on January 10th, you decided to go through the drive-thru for lunch and you spent $8. Well, as you can see, there's already a transaction on the 10th, your groceries. So all we have to do is click the number of that row to highlight it in blue. Then we'll come up here and click Add New Row. As you can see, it adds a new row, and it also includes all of the formulas, so it's ready to go. All you have to do is enter your information. We can double click the date if we want to and pick a different date if we need. Then we'll put the description, which is drive-thru for lunch. And of course, if it's a specific restaurant, you can put its name in there. We'll come over here. We said it was $8. And it automatically calculates everything in. Then we'll come over here to the type and say we paid with our debit card. And we'll put it under FF for fast food. And that's it. Now you can also add multiple rows. So say for example we needed to add 4 rows, we can click and drag to select the 4 rows above where we want to put it and click Add New Row again. And then we just go through and update all of the columns, just like we did for the drive-thru for lunch. And this is especially handy if it's been a few days since the last time you synced up with your banking app and you've got several transactions to catch up on. So since we don't actually need these rows, we'll back out of that. And next, let's talk about this button right here, freezing past transactions. So once you've been using your budget for a bit, you'll notice that transactions in the past just eventually become done. They all become this dark color. And that means they've cleared at the bank, nothing is changing, and they're basically etched in stone. At this point, the only way to change a past transaction would be to create a new transaction to balance it out. Once a month has completed and all of the transactions from that month look like this, I usually go up here and click Freeze Past Transactions. When you click that button, it removes the formulas from the rows that have all 3 of these boxes checked, leaving behind only the values. This does 2 things. It locks in your history so it won't change accidentally, and it helps keep the sheet running smoothly over time because it's not having to calculate all the way back from the beginning of the year. You don't need to do this constantly. Think of it as a maintenance step, something you might do after either reconciling or maybe once a month like I do, when you're basically confident that those transactions are final. So when you click this button, you'll see the script running. It'll take just a moment. And when it's finished reading the entire page to see what has that 3rd box checked, you'll be able to see that if you double click here, it's just a number. And up here, as you can tell, there's no formula. Now, if you double click on the one after it that doesn't have that 3rd box checked, there's a formula there. That's what helps to calculate your balance as you go. And there are definitely a couple of scenarios where you are going to want to freeze all your past transactions, and that's going to be when a bill changes price, or for example, if you get a raise. Because then when you go back to the blue table and say, for example, that credit card payment has now changed and instead of 30, you need to pay 40. We can change it here in the blue table, and all of the instances of that credit card in main checking have now updated to that new cost per month. So as you can see, credit card 1 over here is now at $40. If I double click that, you'll see that it refers back to that cell in the blue table. Where freezing past transactions comes in is that if your bill changes or if you get a raise, if you want to just mass change all of the instances of those in main checking, You need to freeze past transactions so it doesn't change those. It only changes the future ones. Okay, so there's one last feature that I do want to show in main checking. Now you notice situated up here above the M column is an expansion button. And if we click it, it'll reveal columns N, O, and P, which are dedicated to the Roundup Savings feature. Now, Roundup Savings is actually a really simple concept, and if you've ever used or even heard of the Acorns app, then you're probably already familiar with what this is. Basically, it lets you automatically skim a little extra into your savings as you use your debit card. You don't even have to think about it. In fact, a lot of banks already have this feature built in, so you might not even have to use an app like Acorns. All you'd have to do is go into your online banking account settings, find the feature, turn it on, and have a savings account ready for those amounts to be transferred into. And even if you've already got a savings account, if you decide to do this, you might even consider opening another one specifically just for this, so that you can match up balances from sheet to account. Here's how it works. At the top of the Roundup column in cell P2, there's a drop-down menu, and this is where you choose your Roundup amount to add to each of your debit card transactions. By default, it is set to $0, which is essentially the off position, but you can choose next dollar, which rounds debit purchases up to the next whole dollar, or a flat amount like $1, $2, $3, $4, or even $5. Now keep in mind that it is possible your bank may only offer some of those amounts to choose from. Mine, for example, only offers next dollar, $1, $2, and $5, completely skipping 3 and 4. So obviously you'll only want to choose from the ones that your bank supports. Now once you've picked an option, and I'll choose $1 here, everything else pretty much happens automatically. The green column in is the Roundup credit. You don't even need to enter anything in here. Whenever you make a debit transaction and set the type over here to debit, it automatically adds the amount based on what you chose up here in the drop-down menu. So for example, if you choose next dollar, let's do that, and then you spend $8.25. Roundup will add automatically 75 cents to the savings for that transaction. Or if you choose a flat amount like $2, it'll do it for $2 for every transaction that is a debit. Next, in the red column O here, we have Roundup withdrawals, and this one is manual, so anytime you move money out of your Roundup savings, you just enter that amount here for whatever date is associated with it. And of course, we have the blue column P over here, which is your balance column, and it keeps a running total based on what's going on in both columns N and O. Now, the nice thing about this setup is that it stays completely out of the way. Once it's turned on, it just works in the background as you spend. And you can even collapse these columns back down so that if an out of sight, out of mind approach is more your style, you can do that. Maybe open it up every now and then just to see where you're at with it. It's a small thing, but over time it definitely adds up. And because it's built directly into your daily transactions, it doesn't feel like you're doing anything extra to save. You just are. And again, if you don't want to use this feature, you can just set it to the $0 setting and collapse it back down, and that is essentially turned off and out of the way. Now, another thing that is important to note is that Roundup works together with the U, P, and C checkboxes on the left. And this is because banks, they don't actually move the Roundup savings that you're building up until the debit charges associated with them have fully cleared. So while Roundup is figured into your future as well as obviously your past transactions, it is not figured into your pending transactions. So basically, just as you are naturally going through and using these boxes, your Roundup and this blue box is going to keep up with what you see in the bank. And it just follows along automatically and stays aligned with your real balance without any extra effort needed. Okay, so let's go through and I'm going to uncheck all of these boxes. There we go. And we're going to go over to the Savings tab. So at the moment it is empty and we can import your savings, but the first thing we need to do is fill in this yellow box. As it says, we're going to enter the current savings balance in that yellow cell. Now for this video, we're going to say that that's $4,500. And then we're going to come up here and click Import Savings. It's going to run the script, and magically your savings appears with all of the associated dates for all of your deposits. This is, for the most part, going to be a one-time action after you've built out your year. When you click it, the spreadsheet scans all of main checking and it looks for any rows where the transaction description is exactly just the word savings. So if this is something you want to do and you want to automatically import your savings after you've built out your year, make sure in the blue table you've got it labeled simply savings. What's nice here is that the savings tab stays linked to the corresponding savings rows in main checking. So if we come over here and we click on 80, you'll see it even refers to that specific cell, G62, in main checking, which is going to be that February 20th savings. So let's go really quick. We'll expand February. And there it is for $80. Which, interestingly, if we double click there, you'll see it also refers to another cell, which is going to be in the blue table. So let's take a look at that. If we go to the blue table and I change the savings amount to say 60. So every 2 weeks, $60 goes out to savings. Let's go back to checking. And you'll see it changed to 60 as well. Let's go back to the previous one. It also changed to 60. So changing it in the blue table changes all of them in main checking, which then in turn changes it in savings. Now, say for example, we come to the 20th of February and we decide for that one, we can't do 60, let's do 40. If we go back to savings, all of them are 60, except for the one that we changed to 40. So this really offers some fine-tuned control, not only for each specific deposit that you have planned to make, but you can change them en masse under one umbrella by changing it in the blue table. And the same is true too in main checking. Say for example, we can't do it on the 20th. We can choose a different date. Say we need to do it on the 24th. And then we take this row and we move it down to the 24th. Go to the savings tab. And the date has changed to the 24th. All of the other dates have stayed the same, but that one moved because that's the one we needed to adjust. Okay, let's talk about the Add a Bill feature. So let's go to the Add a Bill tab. And this is going to be really useful for you once the budget has already been built in main checking. It's its own tab and it only has one row. And if you notice, that row looks almost exactly like a row from the main checking tab. And you've just got to fill it out basically the exact same way. Start date or due date, description, debit or credit amount. Now we're going to leave the balance cell alone. We don't want to alter that because that's going to get pasted into main checking and fall right in line with the rows directly above and below it. And then we've also got the auto pay, type, and category cells that we need to fill out, and anything you might want to put in the notes. But essentially, after you do that and you choose your interval, just like you do in the blue tab, 1 through 8 weeks and 1 through 12 months, you simply click Add a Bill and then sit back. You'll notice it'll flip back over and it'll start adding that new bill or that new expense to each of your months or however you've got your interval set. Now, because the groups are closed, you'll see that they're actually all collapsed. It's only showing that one new expense underneath each row, but you'll see there's a bunch of arrows here on the left, and that tells you basically that there are a bunch of other collapsed transactions that are in those months. So they're all still in there. So if we right click, collapse all row groups, and then open it up again, there's that new credit card bill. So it adds it right where it's supposed to go at the bottom, mind you, of the date that you chose. So it's on the 7th and it's the last one in the line for the 7th. Real easy. And this is especially handy if either you start a new bill, like a new credit card, or you take on a new phone bill or whatever the case may be, somewhere down the line after you've already generated your year. Or if you have more than 50 expenses, because remember in the blue table tab, you've only got 50 of these rows. So if you have expense 51 or greater, once you build out your year, you go to add a bill and you just add them one by one afterwards. So that way, instead of rebuilding everything, you just add it and keep going. Next, we'll talk about the cards and loans tab, and this is where you keep an eye on all of your debts. Now, this tab isn't directly connected to the rest of the budget, and that's intentional. It's a tracking and visibility tool. And you can track pretty much every kind of debt here. We've got mortgages, auto loans, credit cards, store cards, and buy now, pay later accounts. And each section shows the information that actually matters for that type of debt. Things like balances, interest rates, percentages paid or remaining, payments left, and due dates. And credit cards also show usage percentages, minimums, planned payment amounts if it's different than the minimum. And it even has a drop down, so if you have an assigned bill for any particular credit card, you can set that here. The key thing to remember here is that this tab is about awareness and planning. It gives you a clear snapshot of where all of your debt stands without cluttering up your day-to-day budget. Now, if you need to add any new accounts, say for example you get a new credit card, you simply click on one of the existing ones, probably the bottom one if you have more than one. Then you come up here and you click Add New Row. And then from there you just fill in the yellow boxes. Now anytime you update a row, the date in its rightmost cell should always be updated so you can keep track of when you last updated the row's data. Next is the timesheet tab, and this is for obviously tracking hours and estimating your paychecks. Now it includes both a weekly and a bi-weekly timesheet, and it walks you through everything step by step. So first, we're going to enter the pay period start date, which if we scroll down, you'll see is right here. Double-clicking that will give us a calendar, and let's say the pay periods happen every other Friday, so we'll say the 19th of December. Okay, so we can check that one off. Next, enter the hourly wage, and we'll say for the sake of this video, it's $20 an hour, and the overtime rate is time and a half, so we'll put in 1.5. So we'll check that off. Next, we're going to enter in the number of daily granted pre-work minutes, if any. So basically what this is, in the past I've actually had an employer who would add 5 minutes to every day that you were scheduled if you showed up on time. And that was for things like getting into the systems, logging on to everything, power everything up, and getting to where you can clock in. And so they would give us 5 minutes, which I would then come over here, choose 5 minutes, and then that number of minutes gets added to every scheduled day. We'll go ahead and leave it at 0 for this video though. We'll come up here, check that off, and then next it says enter the appropriate percentage for taxes and other deductions. So that again will be down here. Now if you're not sure how to do this, there's a little help guide down here. It basically says for a good approximation, consider finding the average percent between your gross and net figures from your most recent 3 to 5 paychecks. And it shows you the equation down here. It'll be net divided by gross, and then you'll multiply that by 100, and that'll equal your percent. So let's say for this video, it's 88% remaining after all deductions and taxes. So we'll come up here, we'll check that off. And then next we're going to choose our days off from the drop-down menus on the right, and that's over here. So let's say that we don't work on Saturdays or Sundays. Oh, and actually, if we get paid on Fridays, Fridays are not the new days of the pay period, my mistake. Let's go over here and choose the 20th, it would be Saturdays. There we go, now it starts on the right day. So if we don't work on Saturdays and Sundays, we'll come over here to the drop-down, and we'll choose off for those 2 days where it'll gray it out. And then let's say it's the same for the next week. Now for the days that we are scheduled, we're just going to come to these yellow boxes and we're going to put in our punches. So let's say we come in at 8 a.m. Then we take a lunch at, we'll say noon. Whoops, we do have to type that correctly, of course. And then we came back from lunch at, we'll say 1 p.m. We'll say it's a 1-hour lunch. Then the end of the day when we punch out is 5 p.m. It adds it all together, and that's an 8-hour day. So for this video, we'll say this is the schedule all week long, so we'll just copy that and then paste on the remaining rows. There we go. And we can see it gives us a 40-hour week. And at the rate that we said we're paid at $20 an hour, that is a gross pay for that week of $800. So if that's our schedule, let's just copy that and we'll put it on the next week as well. There we go. Another 40 hours, another $800 gross pay for the week. Come down here and it adds it all together. That's $1,600 total. then minus that 88% would give us about $1,400, $1,408 it says here. So, and then below that, it shows you your full time in decimal, so that way it can match up to whatever you might see at work. Okay, so we can see start date of the 20th of December, the end date would be the 2nd of January, and then the paycheck date, if your employer is like mine, where you work 2 weeks, wait another week, and then you get paid for that 2 weeks, it's basically a week in arrears, then that paycheck date will be the 9th, which would be a week after the end date. And once that week is complete, you can come up here and clear timesheet. And it essentially clears out all of the punches, it leaves your days off alone, but it updates your start date to the next pay period. And then you can start again with the new week. And of course, as you go, you can click these off. But it's definitely useful if your hours vary and you want a realistic picture of what your checks are going to look like before they hit your account. Next, we've got the supplies, pet supplies, and projects tab. Now these tabs all work very similarly. They're basically just adding amounts, and you tell it the price of your items, the amount that you want of those items, and then the totals of each item. And then of course down here at the bottom, they will also add in your tax if you know your tax rate. So this is really good for planning for your supplies. We've got 6-month drop here, we've got 12-month drop here, and then down at the bottom we've got one-time purchases. And we've put in just a whole bunch of examples of things that you might want in your supply drop. And this is very handy if you're having a difficult time keeping your supplies, like your cleaning supplies, bathroom supplies, things like that, out of your grocery budget so that you can use your grocery budget for groceries. It's very similar with the pet supplies. Now, we tend to buy all of our pet supplies from places like Chewy and Amazon, and with Chewy in particular, they have auto ship. So with that, there is an option here to say whether or not you've got it on auto ship, which is mostly just a visual reminder for yourself. And then in projects, we have just identical tables going all the way down that operate the same way. And that'll help you budget for any particular project you're doing around the house or, a kid's art project, whatever the case may be. And these tabs don't directly affect your budget numbers, but they're great for planning ahead and keeping spending intentional rather than reactive. And then of course, as I mentioned earlier, we come to the categories tab. And once your 12-month budget has been built, you'll find that this tab comes to life. It takes a look at the categories assigned to each of your expenses in main checking, and it uses that data to break down your spending. You'll of course see this pie chart, and it shows you how your money is divided across categories: housing, food, subscriptions, savings, and so on. And there's nothing to fill in here. It's purely informational. It gets all of its information from main checking, so you don't have to do anything here. But it gives you a quick visual way to understand where your money is actually going throughout the year. You'll also see the category list here, and also the total spent. Again, this is all loaded from main checking. The list, however, is going to be loaded from our final tab down here, which is lists. And you'll see how the 3-letter designations all match up with the categories that you find in the categories tab. And you'll also see the transaction types up here that you go to pick out for each transaction in the types column. Now, if you want to customize these lists, you definitely can. You can add new names, you can rename things, make it your own. The only rule is that these lists cannot be moved from left to right. So as long as you don't move them around, everything else will continue to work as normal. Now, if you're happy with these defaults, you can just leave this tab alone and don't even worry about touching it. Now, before we wrap up, I just want to say thank you to anyone who's taking the time to test this out. I would genuinely love to know what you think about this. And, if something feels confusing, clunky, or like it could work better, I want to hear that too. Same thing goes for anything you find yourself wishing that it did that isn't here yet. Now, this spreadsheet exists because I wanted something that actually works in real life, not just on paper. And feedback from people who actually use it is what helps it keep getting better. So if you have any thoughts, ideas, or suggestions, please share them. I really appreciate you taking the time to try it out, and I hope it helps you feel a little bit more in control of your money.